Hey guys, welcome to the analysis for today. It's Friday, obviously, so end of the week. Happy Friday to everyone. Um, Today we're going to cover the weekly charts like we typically do each Friday. So just note that these are all weekly charts. I think it's good to kind of step back and take a look at the longer term. I think that as traders, a lot of times we do get stuck in the shorter time frames and the intraday stuff, and it kind of makes us lose our overall perspective of what's really going on in the market and having that larger overview of the market. So I do think that's important, and I want to just cover some of these weekly setups, these weekly levels going on, and kind of help you prepare for your trading over the next few weeks by doing so. Okay, so we're going to cover that in just a minute. Before we jump into that, let's take a look at our terms. So these are the terms for the Winner's Edge daily analysis. And basically all they say is that, we're not qualified or licensed to provide investment advice. We're only doing this as a service for you to provide, some educational value, and that's all it is. We're not responsible if you decide to risk money based on what we say, anything like that. Okay, guys? So it is important that you understand that for the government's rules and to make sure that we're following those closely. Alrighty, let's jump into those charts. Okay, guys, so the first thing I have up here is the euro dollar weekly chart. And you can see that obviously, based on the long-term chart, that the euro dollar is in a downtrend. I have a trend line drawn here, and I don't know how much validity you might find in it, but I did just notice that it covered a few points, and so I wanted to draw that out and show you that technically we are bouncing off this trend line. Again, it's not something that has hit every high and has 7 points of touching on it by candles, but still a trend line nonetheless that I wanted to draw some attention to. And also notice that this 130 level is a very critical level in the euro dollar, and we've talked about it so much over the past few weeks and even the past few months since this was occurring when it was bouncing off here. We were also talking about it. So we've really paid a lot of attention to this 130 level. But what's interesting is that over the past 2 weeks, these two candles have not really paid a lot of attention to this level. They've kind of just broken right through it each and every time that they've approached it. So it's kind of interesting to note. Now, one thing that you might see as a potential issue with this level is that rather than struggling and kind of hitting off and bouncing all the way back down, it might just struggle right on top of this level, because sometimes that's what it does at these major levels. So hopefully that's not what it's going to do. I don't like those choppy markets. But I do think there's potential based on this trend line, obviously the overall momentum of the downtrend, and the fact that euro has been very strong recently, that we could have reversal potential here, and that's one thing that I'm looking out for. Another major level to keep an eye on is here, which is like the 126 area, because it's been tested quite a few times, even further back than what I have shown here. But those are the few levels that I'm looking at on the euro dollar. Again, I think depending on how next week goes, that we could have some continuation towards this level, and that'll be something that I'm definitely paying attention to. Somewhat similarly to this, we have the pound dollar chart, which I want to show you. Alright, so here we have the pound dollar chart, and you can notice that this one level here, which is like the 162.5, 168, or sorry, 162. 9 level, 163. Sorry, that was somewhat confusing. It's around 162.9. Okay, guys, that's the major level that I'm looking at here on the pound dollar. And you can see that it has been broken before, but has continued to be a point of resistance both here and looking like it's being tested now. So again, it's one of the dollar crosses that's at a major level and looking for a possibility of reversal. And again, we have another major level below it, like we did on the euro dollar, which is around 158. Okay, so those are the two levels that I'm looking at. I think there's good potential for price to head down here, but of course we need some price action signals to verify whether that's a real possibility. So keep an eye on that level. Of course, I'll be letting you know as well what I'm seeing on that level, and we'll look for an opportunity there to get price to head back down, because from here we do have a let's see, about a 530 pip range, and then to the bottom here of the previous low about 980 pips. So pretty good moves from top to bottom here, and if we do get a momentum reversal, definitely would be worth trading. Alright, let's also check out the odd dollar. Now the odd dollar to me is actually very interesting, because when you look at it on the daily chart, you see these massive swings down and then massive swings up, and a lot of pips to be found. But on the weekly chart, it's actually kind of more of like a sideways market, kind of forming this triangle shape, this descending triangle shape. So that's kind of interesting. Just another thing about taking that step back and looking at a longer time frame, what you can see. So with the odd dollar, again, we're at another level here where you can see that it's been tested before and looking for potential drop back into this area. And again, a lot of pips here. If you draw this line, you can see it's about 900 pips. So again, big movement to be found off these major levels, and that's what I would expect if we see some price action continuation. Now, right now, we're seeing kind of pullback at the end of the week, so that's not giving me a lot of confidence in this heading all the way back down towards the 195.5 area. Instead, it's kind of looking like it's trying to pull back and test this line again. So, I'm not jumping on an odd dollar short yet, but I do think there's some long-term potential there. So keep your eyes on that. If this does continue, you don't want to miss a 900 pip drop back to this level. I can promise you that. So we'll keep an eye on these levels also. And it's interesting to note, guys, that the odd dollar, pound dollar, and euro dollar are all at major levels, which means that we're kind of at a deciding point here with the US dollar. If it breaks these levels and heads up to the upside, okay, that means that the US dollar has really given in to some serious weakness. But the US dollar also has some potential to gain a lot of strength and reverse both the odd and the pound, well, not both, but the odd, pound, and the euro all back down, which would be some long-term United States dollar strength potential. So some interesting stuff going on in the market right now in the long-term view. And it's always nice to kind of take a look back and see, these long-term potential setups that we have. Of course, the odd, euro, and pound are all at key levels that can provide us with some good long-term setups. So I'm watching all of those. Of course, if you're watching the daily analysis every day, you'll have potential to trade those with me as I see them, and we'll definitely keep an eye on that. If you're watching this but you're not signed up to get the daily analysis every day and you want to, you can do that at the end of the video. There's a pop-up that will let you do that just in case you're not signed up for that. I'm sure most of you already are, though. All right, let's take a look at a non-US dollar cross. Okay, so this is the euro yen, and again, a long-term downward potential we're seeing here. You can see that there's a point here, 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 and now testing here. So somewhat valid trend line here. Again, this is the one that I just drew. I kind of saw that some of the points matched up. Noticing that all of this never tests this line, which is kind of a bummer because that would provide us with some more confidence in this line. But nonetheless, you can see that euro yen is also shaping up off a key level and looking to head down. You can see that the euro yen is definitely headed down on the bottom as well as the top, but they are narrowing. So eventually this is going to get a little tighter if it continues to respect these lines. But still, from the top of this line to the bottom is over 1,000 pips. So again, massive pip potential. Of course, there's always massive pip potential when you're talking about weekly charts. They're weekly charts. They move a lot. But unlike ordinary weekly charts, these weekly charts, the ones that we're looking at right now, actually have a reason to start bouncing in the opposite direction and making up some of those pips in a definite direction. And that's always what we like to see. So keep an eye on euro yen, and let's also take a look at pound yen. All right, guys, another one we got here is the pound yen, and virtually just like the euro yen, it's bouncing off key levels and it's heading down overall. I think that's pretty obvious. The yen has been overwhelmingly strong against most of these pairs for quite some time. If you take your weekly or monthly chart on the pound yen and zoom all the way back and draw from the top to the bottom, you'll see about a 13,000 pip drop, which is obviously very massive because the pound yen has been consistently moving down for a long time. Now, one thing to note that's slightly different on the pound yen than the euro yen is that the recent bottoms have actually been making a slight base to the upside. So though it is making lower highs, it's actually making slightly higher lows as of late. So that's something to pay attention to because if this continues to tighten up inside this range, there's going to be a breakout, and it actually could be to the upside for a change and make some higher highs, because you can notice that with a few exceptions, like where it channeled tighter here, almost every time this makes a higher high, it's still lower than the recent high. So if we've got a huge breakout here that actually eclipsed some of these higher highs, that would certainly be making a statement for the pound yen. And so that's definitely something to be looking out for. And that's most likely, not for a while that would have that potential, assuming that it does continue to respect these areas and tighten up here. We're talking about several months, perhaps several years, before we get that tightening up and breakout potential. But still, you always want to keep this overview in mind and pay attention to some of these potential breakouts because they can be massive, and obviously massive breakouts, assuming that you catch those in the right direction, are going to be pretty huge for your account in terms of percent gain. So we want to keep an eye on all of those. We want to make sure that we're aware of the overall view of the market, and we certainly want to be ready for it when it happens. All right, let's look at a few other pairs here. Another pair that we have headed down here is the euro pound, which is just another one that's in a consistent downtrend. And you can see that the euro pound has been somewhat consistent since basically the end of 2008 in its downward trend. Now, it's been a lot more consistent if we just zoom up and take into account the past year or so, maybe year and a half. And you can see that this downtrend is a lot more consistent. And one thing to note here is that this little rally that we've had for the euro against the pound over the past few months is actually probably the strongest rally, at least in terms of pips, that we've had since this downtrend really started picking up more pace in the middle of 2011. Okay, so this is something to note because a rally like this could lead to a potential strong continuation of that upside. Now, obviously, this past week has definitely made some ground toward the bearish direction because pound has gained a lot more strength than euro over the past week. So considering this bearish candle that we have forming here, what we want to look for is this level. Is it going to test this level and actually continue the up rally, or is it going to break right through the level and actually make a newer low below this area, which is like the 77.8 area? So those are the two things that I'm looking at. Is this weekly bearish sign going to continue, or we're going to bounce off this level? Obviously, a bounce would signify good long entries, and a break would qualify good short entries. So both of those have good potential, in my opinion, over the next week, and we'll definitely keep an eye on that as well. Alrighty, let's check out the pound New Zealand, another pair that I really like to look at. So you can see that since basically March of 2011 or April of 2011, that the pound New Zealand is basically in a sideways market. And one thing to note that even in a sideways market, there's still ups and downs. Like you can see, even in this swing up, there was a major pullback before it got to the top. So that's one thing to note. It looks like perhaps this headed down is getting one of those pullbacks that is going to test perhaps before it heads back up, which will give us that nice W pattern, which we often see in sideways markets. So that's one thing to pay attention to. This is a great topping candle, which we see here. Kind of a stall bar so far for this week's bar, and we'll see what next week brings us. I'm looking for a potential bottoming out here into this level, and then a continuation to the upside. Again, more pips. So I keep talking about pips, but let's check this out. About 2,000 pips from the top to the bottom of this sideways market. So again, we're talking about great amounts of pip volume in these weekly setups. And so that's what's so great about them, and that's why I like to keep an eye on them and make sure that I'm aware of what's going on in these longer term markets because of the value that you can find there in terms of pips to be made. So that's the pound New Zealand. Great chart there. Some serious potential really in all of the weekly charts that we talked about, and they're ones that are worth looking into and trading according to because of those pip values. I think that's probably the last pair that I'm going to cover today. I don't see really any other major setups worth talking about. I think that all the pairs that I did cover today, have a lot of potential, and I think they're ones that we're going to continue to watch and make sure that we're ready if there's breaks or bounces or continuations or patterns or whatever there might be. We're going to be on the ball with that because we don't want to miss these long-term setups. Trust me, you don't want to miss a 950 pip swing if you can help it, because that's a lot of money in our accounts, and money is the goal of this trading. Now, whether you want money because you want to save for your retirement, or you want to go into the ministry, or you want to save for your family's vacation, whatever you want money for, that is that's the purpose, the overwhelming purpose. But obviously the goal, the goal inside of this forex trading is about making money to do whatever your bigger purpose is. So with that in mind, the easiest way to make money is to get involved in massive moves in the market and help them or have them go your way. So that's what we want to pay attention to. That's what we want to make sure that we capture, and that's what we want to make sure that we're ready for. With that in mind, let's keep watching these weekly charts. Let's watch these setups develop. Let's take advantage of them if we can. and let's get on the ball with this because we want to take advantage. That's the goal. We want to take advantage here. Alrighty, guys. Well, that's my spiel about Forex and taking advantage of long-term setups, and I hope you guys found this helpful, and I'm glad that you came to watch it. Of course, I will be releasing my next analysis Monday when the markets are back open, and I'll talk to you very soon. Be sure to leave a comment or tweet it or get involved somehow because we love to get you guys involved. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you real soon, guys.